Well, hello, Green Prix race teams. My name is Mike Brakey, as it says there. Green Prix race director. I've done the fall 2021 and now just finished up the spring 2022 Green Prix races here in Chattanooga. And as I thought about the racing and afterwards and what we could do better to make the next Green Prix an even better event, it struck me that several of the organizations that I do a lot of racing with have gone to kind of a virtual, both novice training style, where you can watch a video about some racing basics, and then even track specific, like a driver's meeting, like we have at the beginning of the Green Prix. And so you'll have to forgive me. I'll probably end up moving my head a few times. But thinking about that, these are the cars that I race. Upper one's a Lotus 7, and then our endurance team, where we do 15-hour endurance races. The different sanctioning bodies have gone ahead and put together videos to post on YouTube to watch, even as just a refresher. I've been doing this 35 years, and it's still a good idea pre-race to go through the video and kind of re-engage your brain on the specifics. So that was the kind of beginning of this idea on a video. And so what I want to talk about in this first one, and there may be more than just this one, we've got ideas on some common tech issues, on car building, on presentations. So my hope is we'll see a few more of these develop. And again, just to help teams, there's kind of that we make a mountain out of what we don't know. For teams that haven't done this in a while, or new teams just being put together, a little bit of information will take away some of the kind of fear, I guess, of what we don't know showing up for our first race. Because the bottom line is we're here to help you guys get your car safely through tech inspection, safely on the racetrack, and have a good time. We're not here to say, no, take this thing home because of a minor tech infraction. Here's my agenda. I wanted to go through flags. We do have on the Green Spaces website a flag breakdown, what they mean. And I'll be honest, I stole the verbiage on these from, I believe it was the SCCA website. I want to talk a little bit about tires, because that's the only thing connecting you, your race car, to the ground. Some basics on passing, a little bit about how to enter pit road safely, a few common questions I hear almost every race, and then at the end we have some points of contact to get in touch with folks if you have a question. Because we're not trying to play I have a secret, we're trying to get the information out to all the teams. So with that, let's start with the flags. And one of the things I noticed at the spring race was there was a basic understanding of flags, but kind of what an absence of flags meant. And so the green flag, if you think about a stoplight, green, yellow, red, that's the easiest way to remember the flagging. So at the start of the race, all the cars were set out on the grid. We get a green flag to go. Course is clear, session is started. So that may be your practice qualifying, it may be the race itself. Generally, in a race, that's the only time you're going to see a green flag. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The yellow flag, think of a yellow light, caution, right? Now there's two iterations of this, and it's easy to keep them straight. If the flag is waving, that means there's some kind of an immediate danger. A waving flag means it's more hazardous in front of you, whereas a standing, as we call it, just a flag hung out so you can see it, still some kind of hazard on the track, but maybe it's being cleared. It's not as immediate, like a car that's spinning around the corner just in front of you. That would be a waving flag. Either way, waving or standing, as we call it, yellow, means there is something wrong, and slow down, like 50% speed. The reason why is you want to be able to react to whatever that hazard may be without crashing into it. A barrier, another car, a corner worker, right? So yellow flag, what does that mean? It means no passing. So slow down, no passing. And that usually ends up being our most common black flag, but I'll get to that in a minute. The one you hopefully won't see is the red flag. And again, stoplight, think of that. There's something really wrong. In the spring race, we had a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, and it blew the barriers down into completely closing the track. we had to red flag the race to stop it. There was no other option. So with the red flag, it says extreme danger, stop where you are. That's true, but make it a controlled stop. You don't have to slam on the brakes, because what may happen is the guy behind you didn't see the red flag, and now boom, you have an impact. So what we say especially in motor racing, is the first thing you do with the red flag is look in your mirrors so that you don't slam on the brakes and get hit. Quick check of the mirror, controlled, quick stop, and then wait for further instructions. And with the electric cars, you can just turn the switch off for the time being, save your battery power. Okay, that one's very rare, and hopefully we don't see it often. The passing flag, we did use this a bit in the spring race. It can be either blue or blue with a stripe across it. Check your mirrors, there's a faster car coming up on you. Keep driving your line, be predictable, but there's a car coming to overtake you. Okay. The black flag, if you pass under yellow, you will probably see this next. And generally, the corner worker will point at your car if you are the offending car, right? And so that means come into the pits, see what happened. It may be that we see something wrong with the car itself. There's some kind of mechanical issue, and we want you to come in and fix it before the wheel comes off, something like that. Okay. If you do see a black flag at all of the corner stations, that means everybody come into the pit lane. Something's wrong. It's not as bad as a red flag, but we want all the cars off course in a controlled manner. We'll fix it, get you back out on track. We did use this a couple times in the spring as well. You know, if you watch like NASCAR, the white flag means last lap. Well, with us, what it means is a slower vehicle. And toward the end, especially of the F24 race, where you're maxing out your battery, there were a few cars really slowing down the last 2-3 laps. And so what we did, or what the corner workers did, was we put out the white flag as that slow car is coming around course, and it lets you know, hey, there's a slower car out there. Okay. And then of course, checkered flag, session's over. Once you go through the checkered flag, start slowing down kind of to a yellow flag speed, 50%-ish, and just ease your way into the pits. Don't complete another lap. We can adjust that if somebody does by accident complete an extra lap. But once you receive the checker, slow down, into the pits, race is over. Okay, and here we go. I got to move my head already. So a couple of the notes on flagging. If there's no flag at a station, it means the course is green. So again, green flag at the very start of the race, and then if the course is green, there's no issues, there's no flags. We're not going to hold a constant green flag at each of the corner stations. So no flag means green. And so here's an example I put together. If you go into corner number 1 at whatever track it is, and there's a yellow there, that means slow down. Okay, standing or waving. Once you pass that station and now can pick up visually the next corner station, say it's corner number 2, and there's no flag, that means you have passed the incident and you should have seen it, and now the course is back to green. And what can happen, and often happens, is you'll have a yellow flag in a corner, in this case corner number 1. And now you get past it, the track's back to green. You go through corner 2, 3, 4, 5, and you come back around, and there's corner number 1, and whatever it is, the barrier was knocked out of place, the car's still stuck there, you can have a yellow flag at one corner for several laps. So you're racing for 80% of the lap and then slowing down under that yellow flag. Okay? The flags apply as soon as you can see it. You don't have to come up abeam the corner station for the flag to be in effect. If you come around a corner and look down the straightaway and you see a yellow flag, that yellow flag applies to you. If you come around a corner that had a yellow and you look down the straightaway and there's no flag, that means the course is green. Okay? So they apply as soon as you can see it. And again, that last note, don't expect a second or third green flag. Say we go full course yellow. All corner stations have a yellow flag. That means we're rotating around the track at about 50% speed. Once the problem is cleared, the corner workers will bring in the yellow flag, but very seldom. We had to do this once just to get people back going. The removal of the no flag idea means the course is green. So as you're putting around under a full course yellow and you're watching the corner stations, when you see them pull in that yellow flag, that means we're back to a green flag condition. I hope that makes sense. So don't expect a second, third, fourth green flag after we come off a yellow or something like that. Okay. All right. That's enough on flags. Let's talk about this, tires and traction, the idea of what connects you and your race car to the racing surface, to the track. And I know my head's in the way already. I'm going to have to move around a bit. So on this, I want to talk about a couple things. The contact patch, the idea of weight transfer, how weight moves around as a car accelerates, decelerates, goes through corners. There's a thing called either the traction or grip circle. I've heard it called both. And the idea of how much a tire is capable of doing. And then what happens if you exceed that available grip, and a little bit about what rain and the idea of hydroplaning, what that does. And so what I did was, this is a car just sitting stationary, and you can see the contact patch is the part of the tire that's touching the ground. So it's not the whole tire, it's just that little section touching the ground. And what I did in a kind of lame attempt to show it is these little red bars are what like an F24 contact patch would look like, because the tires are very narrow. So think about that. You only have a couple square inches of tire touching the racetrack, and that allows you to do as much as you're capable of with that car. Now, weight transfer, if you hit the brakes and you felt it in your just driving around on the road, you get pushed forward. What that does is it transfers weight toward the front of the car, increases the contact patch because it kind of smushes the tire into the pavement, and it gives you more grip in the front, which is generally good. And the same thing happens in a corner. In this case, a car going around a right-hand corner, you can see the left side, the weight transfers that direction and gives you more contact patch, i.e. more grip in the corner, which again is a good thing because you want the car to make that right-hand turn. Okay? So that's the basics. Now, this is what the idea of a grip circle or traction circle. A tire, I don't care what kind of tire it is, will give you X amount, a certain amount of grip. And what you can do is you can use that to turn. So in that example, the car turning to the right, I can go as much as the tire will give me to start a right-hand turn. If I go beyond that, the car is going to start to slide. And we'll talk about that. You can also use it in acceleration, which the Green Prix cars don't have so much that they'll spin the wheels generally under acceleration. But for braking, there's only so much the tire can give you in braking, and again, if you exceed that, you're going to start to skid. Okay, so you can go all the way to that periphery of the circle, but you can't go beyond it. So here's an example. You're going into a corner, you need just a little bit of braking, maybe just letting off the throttle button for a second and to start a right turn. So a little bit of braking and the right turn. And both of those, I'm still inside the grip circle, so the car is going to do what I want it to do. It's going to react like it's supposed to, right? Head movement. The example where you go beyond the grip circle. Let's say you're going into a tight corner and you realize a little bit too late that I'm going too fast. So you really start to get on the brakes. Okay, and the car starts to slow down. But as you're on the brakes, then you crank in maximum right-hand steering. And what happens now is I've gone outside that grip circle. And the tires just cannot physically do it. So what's going to happen? The car is going to slide. Okay, and I've got a couple pictures of those. Before we leave the grip circles, one of the things that happens is when the track is dry, you're going to get maximum grip. Now let's say it starts raining. What rain does is it makes that grip circle smaller. So it's easier to exceed the available grip because the course is wet. So you have to be more smooth, more judicious on your braking and turning because it's easier to go beyond the grip circle when it's wet. If you're hydroplaning, that's where the tire is actually riding on top of the water. You no longer have any kind of contact with the pavement. It's like driving on ice, and the grip circle effectively goes to a dot, right? It's almost non-existent. And so if you have big puddles where you may hydroplane, the best thing to do is try to go through those straight so that the car, if it is riding up on the water, is still going in a straight line. If we find that we've got puddles and corners and the race just gets too hazardous, we may have to red flag it for a bit and sweep off the course or wait for the rain to quit. Here's the reactions of, there's two terms, not to get super technical, but they're understeer and oversteer. And this example where I went into the corner too fast, put on the brakes, and then cranked in the steering and exceeded the grip circle, what generally happens on most road cars and on Green Prix cars is you get what's called understeer. So you've cranked in steering, and that's the picture here, understeer. You've got a lot of steering in, but the car is just not reacting because there's not enough grip. So it's going to keep going in a straight line because of the momentum of the car. So what you have to do is gradually get the car slowed down. Once you bring yourself back into the grip circle, it'll start to steer again. And hopefully that happens before you get into the outside barrier. Okay? The less common with our cars, at least, is called oversteer, where the back end loses traction and now the back end starts to swing around. And you have to correct in the direction of the skid to catch the car. And again, hopefully you can do that before you hit the barrier. Okay? So hopefully that wasn't too cosmic, but the idea of tires can only give you so much. And that's part of being a driver, is understanding what that limit is and staying right on the edge or inside your grip circle. So let's talk a little bit about the racing line. Oh man, that's perfect. I got my head smack in the way. You're out on course. It's a practice session, and you're kind of by yourself. No traffic around you. The idea of going through a corner, this would be a good example of the corner that was at the end of the front straightaway in the spring race. Okay? As the red car shows, to enter the corner, you want to be as far to the left as possible. Give yourself a little room off of the barriers. And then you want to make that nice smooth arc all the way through the corner, which keeps you in the grip circle and maximizes your cornering speed. So the red car would go from what we call track left, all the way over on the left-hand side, to the apex, right here. And then exit again, track left, to prescribe that nice smooth arc through the corner. That's perfect. I mean, that's what you want to do. But the problem is sometimes there's other cars on the track with you. So the apex is there. That's the optimum line. And every corner has one. And each corner is different depending on, how wide and how sharp the corner is. But when you have other cars on course, now you get into this idea of passing. And that's my extremely lame attempt to draw the spring race. It kind of sort of looked like that. And we had corner stations, and we also had a flagger at the start-finish line to try to give coverage. Before you get to a section of track, you'll see a yellow flag here letting you know there's something going on here. Okay, so the flag comes out before the incident. Same thing with start-finish. But with this course setup, I mean, we had some barrier contact pretty much all the way around the course, but the most common areas were the sharp corner entering the front straightaway and the one at the end of the front straightaway. So let's look at some basics of passing. This, I drew it specifically where the two cars are not quite side by side, but close enough. So one of the key points on passing, once the trailing car has its front wheels next to the driver of the other vehicle, and different racing bodies do it a little bit differently, but basically the car's at least halfway up, the front wheels abeam the driver is a pretty good measure there. Then the red car in this case has to leave racing room for the yellow car to safely at least make the corner. Let's say the yellow car doesn't quite pass him, but you can safely get two cars through that corner if they're paying attention. And again, I put the apex, it's a little bit smaller this time, but the red car all by himself would want to be here, but can't because the yellow car is inside of him. And so this idea of passing, it's a cooperative effort between both cars. The car making the pass is responsible for doing it safely, but the car being passed is also responsible for making it safe. Okay? You got to leave enough what we call racing room. Okay? And that bottom note, a driver that's blocking or just not paying attention to cars coming up may be black flagged, right? Come in, here's what you did wrong, get you back on course. So that's the basics. Now let's talk about a couple common ways this can go awry. This is called a dive bomb, right? It's a kind of a goofy term, but what happens is you've got the yellow car not up a beam, or at least not up where the front wheels are next to the driver of the red car. So maybe just got his nose inside, okay, and tries to go into the corner too fast and late brake. The yellow car's front axle is behind the driver at the first indication, and now the yellow car goes, oh, I'm going too fast, and maybe locks up the brakes or makes contact with the red car. Okay, can't slow down enough, slides into the red car, and what happens is on the exit of the corner, the yellow car keeps going, but the red car gets spun out, maybe gets pushed into the barriers. So who's at fault in this case? The yellow car, black flag. Okay, yellow should have slowed down sooner. So that's why we call it the dive bomb, that late aggressive move inside of another car, but you're not up a beam like in the first picture. The squeeze is kind of the opposite. Now, in this case, the yellow car is well up where he should be, where she should be to make the pass, almost a beam. And so that means the red car, you cannot go for your apex here. You've got to leave racing room for the yellow car. So yellow's a beam or ahead of the red driver. Red tries to squeeze the yellow car by steering toward the apex and now forces the yellow car into the barrier. Okay? Red should have left racing room, at least one car width. Yes, you can move in a little bit, but you've got to leave room for the yellow car because it's there already. So in this case, again, red's at fault. They get the black flag, but the yellow car is in the barrier. And so that's kind of a common theme with some of these potential accidents, is the car at fault oftentimes won't suffer any damage. The car not at fault can. That's why the black flag is there. Okay? Let me give you one more, and it's kind of a squeeze, but it's in the opposite direction. So this time we've got two cars coming into the first corner side by side, and the red is going to try to make a pass on the outside of the corner, and that's perfectly fine. You're able to do that, but this time yellow does a squeeze job, doesn't hold his racing line, and tries to force the red car wide, and ends up forcing him into the outside barrier. So yellow should have left room. You can go through the corner side by side. You can go lap after lap side by side if you do it right. But in this case, the yellows at fault would get a black flag. And again, what we see is the red car, not at fault, is the one in the barrier. So that's why this note. The squeeze is not limited to corners. That's where it often happens. But you can't squeeze a car into the barrier on a straightaway either. There's no squeezing. Okay? And also note that the car at fault is generally not the car that gets into the barrier. And with these cars and some of the fragility of the wheels or the steering arms, hitting the barriers can do damage that takes, 5, 10, 15 minutes to fix. And so that's why the black flag is there as well. Racing is a cooperative effort. Both cars, again, the car making the pass is responsible to do it safely, but the car being passed has some responsibility as well. Work together out there. If I get passed in a race, what I will try to do is follow the car that passed me because they're faster and see what they're doing better. Maybe they have a better line through the corner. Maybe they're just driving better than I am. And I can follow them and learn a few things for the next few laps. And who knows, maybe I'll pick up some speed and make the pass back. Okay? It is a cooperative effort. And so here, a proper pass. This was a picture I just pulled off of the internet of the F-24s, but you can see that these guys are working together. The blue car left room on the inside. Who knows? Is the orange car making the pass? Probably. But even the blue car could be making a pass on the outside, but they've left each other a good one car width plus of racing room so that either one can safely make the pass. Let's talk about pit lane entry, because my son Bryce was the pit lane guru, and he got run into more than a couple times at these races. So here's how to enter the pit lane and to do it safely. So let's say you get the signal from your team, coming in for a driver change, or you get a black flag and you're not sure why. Well, you don't go, well, why am I getting this? Come in and we'll figure it out. But when you're going to come into the pits, you want to get to the side of the track to enter the pit lane. So in the spring race, that would have been to the left side of the track to enter the pit lane. Now, if there's another car there, and I mentioned this in the drivers' meetings, go ahead and make another lap. Don't force yourself into pit lane. Just do another lap and then come in and do your driver change. You don't want to dive into the pits. If you can't get all the way to the left that lap, you probably can next lap if you plan it right. You want to maintain your race speed until you enter the pit lane. And we make the pit lane long enough so that you can come off track at racing speed, get on your brakes, and stop by the stop sign. And if you follow 2 or 3 cars into the pit lane, you can stop with them and not crash into them, which happened. Okay, so race speed until you enter the pit lane, then slow down. Okay, stop at the stop sign. Remember, if you're behind 2 or 3 other cars, that first car is going to be at the stop sign, but you're going to be 2 or 3 car lengths back. So don't expect to go all the way or have all that distance to stop. You're going to have to slow down and stop sooner. Okay, and then wait for your pushers. And so they'll get there, push your car to pit lane for driver change or to the black flag penalty box if that's the case. Right? So once you get on pit lane, get to a stop, you shut the car off and you wait for your pushers. Okay? And that's simple. With the Goblins, the little switch on the dash area, and for the F-24s, just rotate your red kill switch. One other note, do not start to unbuckle, remove any of your driver's gear while you're in pit lane. Not until you get pushed all the way to that driver change area. Now, get out of the car and effect as quick a driver change as possible. Okay? Oops. A little bit more on racing etiquette to kind of wind up. There is some etiquette involved. You can, this isn't a must do, but this is nice. Hand signals can be useful, right? We have the flags to communicate with you, but for you to acknowledge a flag, you can give a quick wave while you're driving, just hand off the wheel for a second, a quick wave to the flag station. I see the yellow, I see the black flag. That lets them know that you see it and are going to react accordingly. Now don't sacrifice control to do that. Yeah, that's what I just said. Give them a quick wave because they're watching you to see if you're acknowledging, or even a head nod. You know, with these cars and how visible you guys are, that works as well. If you see a faster car approaching with the rear view mirrors, and by the way, we're getting better rear view mirrors for these cars, allow racing room, be predictable, hold a nice line, but give that car that 1+ car width of racing room. Okay, and in the racing that we do, I'll often just give a quick out the window net. If I've got a faster car coming, I'll just give a quick point. Dude, pass me on the left-hand side here. It lets him know that I see him, and I'm going to hold my line to give him room on the left. Again, don't have to, but it's a little bit of etiquette. And what I did see a couple times at the F-24 race in the spring was you get the beep beep. Right, I'm coming up on you, and I saw a couple of drivers nod their heads. That works the same as a hand signal. Yes, I hear you. I know you're coming, and I'm going to hold a predictable line to allow a safe pass. Right, so just a little bit of etiquette. Some common questions to wrap up. These are the things I hear most of the time at the Green Prix races. First one is, hey, our car was broken, we didn't get to qualify, or we only got 1 lap in, or there was something wrong with the car. Do we still get to race? The answer is yes. If you don't have a qualifying time, you effectively get what's called no time. But you get to race, you'll start at the back of the grid, but in a 90-minute race, you've got ample time to catch up. So even starting at the back is not some kind of huge penalty in these races. You will get to race. How much does the presentation count? I'm going to answer that in kind of the reverse. We've built it where the race counts roughly double the presentation. So the presentation is a piece, but the race is a bigger piece. And that kind of balances out. So don't neglect the presentation because that goes to the overall result, but also know that the racing counts double effectively. Does Green Spaces, do we have spare parts at the track? Again, the answer is yes, but we don't have everything to build a car from scratch. So any spare parts that you have, first go through your car, make sure it's up to snuff before you get there. But if you do break something or something falls off, we do bring a good cross-section of parts, and oftentimes, it happened in the spring race, a team will go to another team and lend them the part that they need. Because we all want to get out on track and have a good time. So nobody's going to try to win by, I got a part and you can't have it. Right? Why did we get a black flag? The most common reason is a pass under yellow. Because you're focusing so much on that car in front of you. I'm going to make this pass. I've been working on it for 3 laps. And you're looking at that car and the yellow flag's over here at the corner station and you miss it. Has it happened to our race team? It has. It happens when you get sun angles just wrong and it's kind of glary, but that's the most common. It's not a safe situation, so you're going to get a black flag. You're going to get a, hey, you passed under yellow. 1 time, short penalty. You keep doing it over and over again, the penalties get longer, all right? Other reasons: you are deemed to be at fault in a collision. Go back to those examples. Again, the car causing the accident oftentimes gets to continue. So if that's the case, we're going to black flag you to bring you in and talk about why it happened and not happen again. And accidents are going to be longer black flags than your first pass under yellow. Okay? Erratic driving, excessive blocking, yes. And this was a new one to me, but carrying a cell phone in your lap is a guaranteed black flag as well. All right, so let's not do that. Points of contact. This will be the last slide. And so if you have more questions or just curious, interested in the Chattanooga Green Prix, you can talk to Michael or Madison at Green Spaces, and there's their email addresses for you right here, or the various race directors and safety stewards, etc. Myself, Bill Perry's our safety steward. He's been doing this a long time. Chris Denard for tech, and Bill Harris for presentations. So again, reach out if you've got a question. Don't feel like you're alone. If you've got it, somebody else probably does too. And again, we're going to try to do maybe a few more of these kind of instructional videos if you like them. If there's things you want to see in a video, pass that on to any of us on this list, and we'll try to incorporate it in the next one. So that concludes the first of hopefully a few instructional videos for the Chattanooga Green Prix. Right.